There's a silence that creeps in. Right after the craving fades, it doesn't shout. It just lingers, like an ache behind the eyes, like a question you never meant to ask. You scroll past another image, another body, another flicker of fire that dies too fast, and you tell yourself, this is just lust. This is just desire, just human nature. But if you slow down, if you sit with it just a little longer, you'll feel it. That it's not heat, it's hollowness. It's not really about them. It's about the you that you can't feel anymore. Carl Jung once said, people will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul. And maybe, just maybe, that's what's happening to you. You're not chasing pleasure. You're running from something or someone. Maybe even yourself. Pause and breathe. If something stirred in your heart just now, write "I feel this" in the comments. Your words might echo through someone else's silence. Transition into main message. It's easy to confuse lust with need, because they both scream with urgency. They both whisper in the same dark hours. They both promise to make you feel alive again. But what if it's not lust that visits you in the quiet? What if it's grief in disguise? A yearning, not for touch, but for wholeness. You tell yourself you need release. But what you really crave is relief. Relief from being unseen. Relief from walking through life with a body no one truly meets. Relief from carrying a heart that has been waiting too long to be understood. Jung didn't moralize desire. He didn't call it evil. He looked deeper because he knew that under every compulsive reach for connection, there is a soul crying to be felt. And when the soul is starving, it doesn't ask politely. It reaches for anything that looks like love, even if it knows it's not real. Have you ever noticed how empty it feels during the very thing you thought you wanted? Not after, not when it fades, but while it's happening. You're there, in the fantasy, in the scrolling, in the act, but you're not really there, because your body is present, but your soul isn't. And that disconnection, that numbness in motion, isn't about shame. It's about loss. Not loss of someone. Loss of self. Carl Jung believed that unhealed wounds don't just vanish. They shape our behavior in quiet, invisible ways. When a boy is never allowed to feel, he becomes a man who chases sensation. Not because he's weak, but because no one taught him how to stay with his own longing. And longing, when abandoned, becomes lust. Not the kind that connects, but the kind that escapes. The kind that says, please, let me feel something, even if it's only for a second. Has this ever happened to you? Let's talk in the comments. You're not alone. Main body. Part 2, the inner feminine, and why she's missing. In Jungian psychology, there's a concept called the anima, the inner feminine that lives inside every man. She is your softness, your intuition, your ability to feel beauty, to surrender, to receive, to love without possession. But when she is rejected, silenced, mocked, or forgotten, you start projecting her onto other people. You look at her, and suddenly she becomes everything you're missing. Her voice feels like music. Her presence feels like medicine. Her softness feels like home, but it's not really about her, it never was. You're not chasing her body. You're chasing the part of you that remembers what it felt like to be held, without needing to earn it. And so lust begins, not as desire, but as grief. Grief for the tenderness you buried. Grief for the parts of you that had no place to live. Jung would say, this isn't sin, it's a signal. A soul's way of whispering, you left me behind. And until you come back for her, the inner feminine, you'll keep confusing lust for connection, and connection for salvation. But no one else can carry what you refuse to feel. No one else can be the bridge to your own lost self. There comes a point where you don't even feel the high anymore. Just the habit, the muscle memory. You click, scroll, imagine, finish, But nothing moves in you. No light, no real warmth, just a tired loop, like running a maze that always ends in silence. And maybe that silence scares you, because in that quiet, you hear what you've been avoiding, not lust, not craving, but emptiness. You're not broken for feeling this way. You're not strange. You're not weak. You're just disconnected from something sacred inside you. Carl Jung called it the shadow, the part of you that carries the wounds you never looked at, the pain you never named, the needs you never let yourself have. And when the shadow isn't integrated, it doesn't go away. It acts through you. You don't scroll. It scrolls you. You don't fantasize. It feeds you stories where you feel powerful, wanted, safe. You don't lust. You search for what your inner child was never given, and the tragedy isn't in the craving. The tragedy is in how lonely it still feels after. Reflect softly. If these words speak to something inside you, comment, "This is me." Someone might find their reflection in your truth. Main body, part 4, the illusion of intimacy. Lust wears a mask. It pretends to be intimacy. It mimics connection. It says, you're wanted, you're seen, you matter. But the moment it ends, so does the illusion. Because what you really needed wasn't a body. It was to be witnessed, to be known, to be felt without having to perform. But when you've lived in a world that taught you to earn affection, to hide your softness to replace vulnerability with control, you stop seeking connection. You start seeking stimulation. And stimulation is loud, it's fast, it's available, but it's empty. Jung warned us, when we chase outer pleasure without inner presence, we become possessed by the complex. We act, but it's not really us. We chase, but we don't know why. We collapse afterward, but we pretend it's normal. You don't need more pleasure. You need more presence. You don't need another face. You need to return to yours, to the self that has been waiting behind. Every craving, patient, aching, whole. If this touched something inside you, let me know in the comments. I read them all. Even a simple can be the beginning of healing. There's a moment just before the impulse takes over where the soul whispers, wait, stay, feel. It's faint. You can miss it. But if you pause, not to suppress, not to shame, just to listen, you'll feel the difference between needing a body and needing your own. Jung believed healing begins not by resisting desire, but by understanding it. Because lust isn't the enemy, it's the invitation, a doorway to the part of you that aches for union, not with someone else, with yourself, your unmet needs, your unshed tears, your inner feminine who still waits for you to come back and feel. And when you do, when you stay through the urge, when you breathe instead of scroll, when you let the fire pass without acting from it, something beautiful happens. You hear your own heartbeat again. You remember your own worth. You feel your own warmth. That is presence. And presence is power. Not power over others. Power over the illusion. Over the lie that you need to be desired to matter. Pause for a moment. If this resonates with you, type "I feel this" in the comments. Someone else might need your courage to begin their own pause. Main body, part 6, the gentle fire of integration. Jung called it individuation, the lifelong journey of becoming whole, not perfect, not pure, but real. To integrate your lust, you must meet the parts of you you've cast into the dark, the part that wants to be touched without being judged, the part that longs for softness without performance, the part that fears being truly seen, but wants it more than anything, and no one else can do this for you. No one's body can replace your own presence. No amount of attention can fill the place where your self-abandonment lives. So you return. Gently, patiently. You sit in silence. You breathe into the ache. You ask it, "What are you trying to tell me?" And it will answer. Maybe not with words, but with warmth, with memories, with grief, with truth. And that truth will not break you. It will rebuild you. You'll begin to write again, not to impress, but to feel. You'll create again, not to be seen, but to see yourself. You'll look at someone you once desired, and instead of craving possession, you'll feel compassion, because you no longer need them to carry the weight of the love you never gave yourself. So here you are. Not broken, not sinful, not shameful, just reaching for a feeling you thought lived in someone else, but it never did. It always lived in you. Carl Jung didn't ask people to run from their desires. He asked them to face the fire and ask it what it truly burns for, not punishment, not guilt, but wholeness, the reunion of the parts of you you had to exile just to survive. The boy who learned to impress instead of feel. The teen who thought desire was the only way to feel alive. The man who tried to control what he never knew how to receive. They're all still in you, waiting, not to be judged, but to be met. And when you finally sit with them, without the noise, without the performance, without the script, they will show you. You were never craving pleasure. You were craving presence. Presence with your own breath. Presence with your own longing. Presence with your own unlived dreams. Jung said, "I must learn that the dregs of my thoughts, my dreams, are the speech of my soul." Your soul has been speaking, through the hunger, through the lust, through the ache, not to shame you, to guide you home. Because once you return to yourself, once you feel the softness you once gave away, once you forgive the silence inside you, you'll understand something no fantasy can teach. You don't need to be possessed. You don't need to be rescued. You don't need to be consumed. You need to be seen. And the first eyes that must see you are your own. This space is yours too. If your heart whispered something during this part, write it below. Even a single word might open the door for someone else. Final, gentle call to action. If this spoke to your soul, if it stirred something soft, something raw, something real, like this video, not for the algorithm, but for your own acknowledgement. Comment your story. Your reflection might be the light someone else needs tonight. And if your heart thought of someone while watching this, share it with them, not to change them, but to tell them, I see you. I understand you. You're not alone. Subscribe for more reflections like this, not as a follower, but as a fellow soul returning home. And remember, you were never addicted to her. You were addicted to the feeling of being whole. Now, give that wholeness back to yourself. You're already worthy of it.